Salute to everybody joining me today. I want to start off this stream. I titled this video or the stream, why feminists are now demanding men on the dating and relationship market take on traditional roles. In fact, I need to change that. But anyhow, any conversation that we're having today about dating, relationship, marriage, and long-term relationship, if it's not centered around changing the laws is what matters, the elephant in the room. It's moot, in my opinion. All these panels, all these discussions, all these therapists, all these relationship experts don't mean jack shit if you're not trying to change the laws, which will never happen. The Republicans, the Democrats, conservatives, liberals, nobody's talking about changing the fundamental issue that exists with marriage today, which is the laws that are unfairly tilted in favor of women. The child support system, the court system, the child custody system, the alimony system, everything is tilted towards women. So no conversation about structural changes equals no increases in marriages in the West. But China messed up years ago. It started taking on Western principles about divorce and marriage. They introduced feminism into their system because feminism is really about spending money, because women do 80% of the shopping. Has nothing to do. Women's empowerment didn't really mean anything to them. They started doing all those worthless degrees like they do here in the West, propping women up with these useless master's degrees, giving them little office jobs. Then their economy and their society collapsed because they depended heavily on real estate and, this fake class that it created with women that fueled spending. It's like communist capitalism, which is an oxymoron, and it really doesn't work. And it ended up failing. Part of it, too, was the wealth transfer of taking money from Chinese men and giving it to Chinese women. That collapsed because they didn't anticipate that the men would absolutely check out. And they weren't calculating that into the equation. So now we see in the West that what happens with AI, the economy, jobs laying women off, the removal of DEI and other government programs and incentives, Section 8, all these things now, there's consequences in this society. And I call right now fishing for a simp. A lot of these hardcore modern women, feminists, and even the covert feminists, they're hurting financially, many of them. You buy these houses, but it's like buying cars. They require maintenance. They cost money. They're expensive to maintain. And they also have personal upkeep and needs, which is hemorrhaging. So let's go take a look at what happened in China as they introduced these new marriage laws and put a halt and destroyed the gold digging economy over there. Let's continue on.
Have you seen the new marriage law? It says that whatever money you earn is yours. What's yours is yours, and what's mine is mine. Now I understand why marriage doesn't require a waiting period, but divorce does. Look behind me. These are all people waiting to get divorced. Today is the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. The office opened at 9 a.m., and in just 2 hours, this is the scene.
Your country's birth rates are tanking. Marriage rates are dropping. The economy is bracing for a crisis. So what's the government's brilliant fix? Simple. Make marriage more appealing to men by making divorce less financially devastating for them. Seems logical, right? Well, think again. Because instead of saving marriages, this law just sent women running for the exits. Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Shout out to Patreon gang member Mr. Lowry for the topic request. Salute! Let's break this down.
Salute to Manosphere.
On February 1st.
Well, let's get into this really. Hey guys, before we can get into the narrative, salute to you, Red Falls Black. Good morning to our host and the people in the chat. Salute to you guys. Make sure you hit the like button. And for those who haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Let's continue on. Hit the like button, gentlemen, ladies, whoever is watching. Hold on one second. Let me get this going right here. Give me 1 second. We'll get right into the video. I hate interruptions myself, so we're going to continue on in a second. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, let's continue on. Salute to you, Red Foil. Hey, guys, make sure you hit the like button as you come through. Make sure I hit the like button.
2025, China officially implemented a new divorce law, and the impact has been massive. Just take a look at this.
Now I understand why marriage doesn't require a waiting period, but divorce does. Look behind me. These are all people waiting to get divorced. Today is the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. The office opened at 9 a.m. and in just 2 hours, this is the scene. I came here to help a client transfer property ownership, and I saw this with my own eyes. Just look at the line. Everyone here is getting a divorce. So far, I've only seen one couple getting married.
Shout out to China Observer for that clip. So, what's in this new law? Has it got people, especially women, sprinting to the courthouse? Let's take a look at this post from X. Janice, read.
China has a new divorce law, effective the 1st of February 2025. Previously, all properties owned by either spouse would be equally divided during divorce. Now the rule is a lot simpler. Whoever paid for it owns it after divorce, even if the wife's name was added to the title after marriage. And houses gifted to the husband by his parents will remain his property even after divorce and will not be considered shared matrimonial property. And the Chinese women aren't happy. Oh no.
Chinese women are not just unhappy. Chinese women are furious. Check this out.
Have you seen the new marriage law? It says that whatever money you earn is yours. What's yours is yours, and what's mine is mine. If her house was bought before marriage, it still belongs to the original owner after divorce, even if my name was later added to the deed. If the house was bought during marriage but paid for by the husband's parents, I wouldn't get a single cent after divorce. This means the traditional idea of men earning and women managing a household no longer applies. The law doesn't care how much housework I do, how many years I spend as a stay-at-home wife, how many kids I have, or how much I sacrifice for the family. It only protects the person with financial assets. So no matter how much money my husband makes, if we get divorced, I won't get a penny. After learning about this law, I lost all motivation. I don't feel like cleaning, washing clothes, or taking care of the kids. Why? Because none of that counts. If I worked as a nanny, I could make 5,000 to 6,000 yuan a month. But right now, I have no job and no income. And no matter how much I do, it won't mean anything. So don't call me lazy anymore. You can take care of the kids, cook your own meals, and wash your own clothes.
So basically what she's saying, well, I'll get back right into the video. First of all, everybody hit the like button. We got 15 in here, only got 8 likes. So go ahead and hit the like button. You planning? So what this reveals is basically she has an exit strategy. She's not in this for life. That dude is married to her for life. So if you in it for life until death do you part, and the man dies, you're going to inherit these things anyhow. You're not committed for life. You already have an exit strategy planned. That's an admitting, and we know how the society works. I mean, it's very pragmatic in many regards, but what's been happening in this society is because there was a financial windfall. There was an incentive to divorce their husband because they got paid. They got rewarded his property, his land, financial support with the old system. So now she doesn't have a parachute. And now the relationship has to be about more than just receiving benefits. It has to be of substance. You can't just cash out when you're unhappy. Because the financial incentive to divorce your husband, or the safety net to divorce your husband, is gone. So it changes the power dynamics and makes it an environment where people have to bring equal value to the table. you know. So guys, make sure you hit the like button, get the likes up. Again, now it changes. See, the laws is what matters. This proves that the laws are what matters. Everything else is lip service. It's only the laws that matter. Because the laws equal power, power from the state to extract resources, to create imbalances in terms of custody, and so on and so forth. So anybody having the discussion about marriage and relationship and family that's not talking about the laws, it's just lip service, because you see how it affects things when you change the actual laws. Let's continue on.
This is pure gold. You see the dilemma here? Marriage, as we know it, is an outdated contract that no longer fits modern society. Men avoided marriage because they knew divorce could financially ruin them. Now that the law protects their assets, women are the ones backing out because now they could walk away with nothing. Like I always say, women are women first. It's in their nature to prioritize security and resources. And when the game changes, so does their strategy. According to Yale sociologist Emma Zhang, Chinese divorce laws have had a major impact on women's well-being. Janice, read.
The reform significantly harmed women's well-being. It caused a 1-point drop on a 5-point life satisfaction scale for 1 in 15 married women, a major outcome given the vast number of individuals affected. Interestingly, the ruling had no significant effects on men's well-being.
Translation: women aren't upset about losing love. They're upset about losing financial security. This is why men need to wake up. Women don't love the same way men do. They love opportunistically. Traditional marriage was built for a different time where women were dependent on men. But in today's world, women make their own money, and that changes everything. Check this out.
Have you ever noticed that 80% of women in the beauty industry are divorced, and many of the most successful ones are also divorced? That includes me. I think the main reason is that women today are more independent. They've realized their value and unlocked their potential. And at some point, they start to see that the husband they chose isn't supporting them, isn't helping the family, and isn't taking responsibility for the household. Most women get married thinking they will take care of the home and family, but over time, they realize their husband can't provide financial stability or fulfill his role. That's when they understand that relying on themselves is the only way to have a better life. So these women step up and start building careers. The more successful they become, the wider the gap with their husbands. And a lot of men can't handle having a wife who is more accomplished than them, so they try to bring her down. That's when divorce happens.
See, this is where the lie comes in. Women love to claim that men can't handle successful women. But what they won't admit is that they can't handle being the breadwinner. Need proof? Let's go back to Megyn Kelly's confession about resenting her husband because their kids liked him more.
We don't really have a lot of conflict now, but when I was on Fox in the prime time and Doug was doing more than his fair share of everything going on with the young kids, he was never like a stay-at-home dad. He always had stuff going on, but he had a job that allowed him to be at home more, and so he necessarily was doing more. He never got resentful really of me, actually. He was always very supportive. He's just a cool guy, but I got resentful of him.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I don't like that the kids go to your side of the bed in the middle of the night. I don't like that you've shown them all these movies that, I'm not around to see. Now you have your own little language with them about the fun things you've done. I don't like when I'm having a one-on-one conversation with them and you come in and join. I need my own one-on-one time with them. Get out, And I didn't really want to say all those things make me feel, even to this moment, like a very petty person, Like, here's this guy, he's doing all this great stuff. Most women would kill to have a more active partner. I had a different kind of problem. And I didn't really give a shit if it made me feel small. I needed to say it. We had to clear the air.
This is what happens when women take on masculine roles. They start seeing their man as competition instead of her husband. And guess what? A man is just supposed to handle that. The foolishness. Career women, no matter how successful, are still women first. And once they start earning, they think it gives them the right to air every petty grievance they have without consequences. In contrast, traditional women understood that their role was to complement their husband's masculinity, not compete with it. But modern society, it encourages the exact opposite, leading to men and women constantly butting heads.
And again, therein lies the fundamental problem. These women were raised and or adapted even and been programmed to be strong and independent women. And now you're trying to get to marry a woman. You're marrying one, if she's feminist, a woman with a persecution mentality, somebody that wants to compete with you and battle with you, so you'll never have peace. So when these guys say, you know what, I'll have me a woman from across town, you know, like probably my brother Dan Sparks. Salute to my brother Dan. I have to give Dan his recognition, man. Let me tell you something. Dan is a real one. Even when I travel overseas, I traveled in Thailand, literally from the moment I got off the airplane, schooled me on the game and the local scene. I mean, you talk about a dude that stays real, stays honest. You know, you talk about a dude who just give you the game, especially when you go into Thailand. He lives in Bangkok, real, always real, no bullshit. The same guy you meet online is the same guy you meet in person. So salute to brother Dan, man. Salute. But again, this is the situation we're dealing with. We're dealing with feminist women, feminist indoctrinated women. It's the economic situation where we're having these conversations more about relationship, because it used to be a conversation about decentering men. But now with all the financial challenges of the economy, we're getting women back to the table talking about relationships, but not in the traditional sense of relationship. They only talk about traditionalism when it comes to financial support, how much money you need to be paying. You need to be 100% provider. Oh, and then they talk about conditional femininity. Oh, yeah, if you allow us to rest in our femininity by paying all the bills and providing an environment when we don't work. Bullshit. They'll just remove the goalposts. They'll move the goalposts. And once they get the security of marriage and the contract, they'll go back to their feminist roots and start chipping away the bricks and foundation of your masculinity, one brick at a time, because they were not designed to be under or been. They're not really were raised to be under the leadership of men. And you get that bait and switch on you no matter what you do. Now you're paying 100% of the bills. Well, just because you pay 100% of the bills doesn't mean you can tell me what to do. It's going to flip. So it doesn't really matter what you do. He said, this arose in the Black community first. We were the canary in the coal mine. Yep, totally. Absolutely. Let's continue on.
And it's not just a Western problem. Look at China.
I just saw New Year fights trending online. My first thought was, so it's not just my family. That actually made me feel a bit better. In my home, fights can break out over anything, from something as small as a chopstick falling on the floor, too much filling in dumplings, or even a child coughing, to something as big as the footballer Messi controversy or international conflicts. The new year is supposed to be a time of joy, but in reality, the more people gather, the more arguments happen. The reasons are endless. If you can think of it, it can probably start a fight. Even now, I don't understand. Getting together for the holiday isn't easy, so why do people end up arguing?
Among the most serious disputes were those between married couples. These conflicts were not limited to verbal arguments. Some escalated into physical altercations, including fights and overturned tables.
Fighting over dumpling fillings? At least somebody's cooking. Western women don't even want to make you a sandwich. But back to the bigger issue. Why are men and women struggling to get along? Let's hear from this Chinese man breaking it down.
By the way, I'm not just trying to pinpoint, the blame on women. I'm talking about this is an issue between both man and woman. So when everybody only had one child, all the parents, right? This is this generation's grandparents now. Back then, when they were brand new parents, they would say things like, "Oh my God, my son, you're my only child. You are so special. I love you so much. You are the prince. You are the king of the world. I'm going to make you the world's #1. I'll buy anything you want to. You want to go to Florida? You want to visit Disneyland? I'll take you there. You want to go to Vail, Colorado during the winter for a skiing trip? I'll take you there. You want a BMW for your 18th birthday? I'll buy you a BMW. You want a Mercedes? I'll give you a Mercedes. I'll do anything I can to make you happy. And so this is a major problem, right, for both man and woman. And they're telling their daughters, oh my God, you're a princess. You're so beautiful. You're 1 in a million. You're future Miss Universe. You're going to enter all these beauty pageants. You're going to be a runway model. Oh, girl, you are a 10. You're so special. You deserve a top 1% man. So yeah, a lot of this generation, right, obviously for me it's different. Yes, I do have 2 siblings, and this is partly due to the many divorces in my family. But the next generation of these Chinese people, yeah, they're screwed because they've never ever been told no their entire childhood. What do you think happens when they grow up? What do you think happens when they get married when they're 25? When for their entire childhood they've been told that, oh my God, you are king, you are #1, you are the prince, right? You are the god of the world. Or you've been told that, oh yes, you go queen, slay, you're a princess, you're so special. And yeah, of course, when they grow up, they're going to act like a little bitch. What do you think, when you have these 2 people, both who grew up as the only child in their family, both have been basically completely spoiled rotten. They have never ever been told no in their entire life. And yeah, what happens? What do you think these couple, when they can meet, let's say when they're in university, when they're 18 years old, and they date for a few years and they get married at 24, there's a 90% chance that marriage is going to end up in divorce. Because you have 2 people who have never ever been told no in their life, and they're completely spoiled rotten, right? And so this is a massive crisis.
Boom! Main character syndrome strikes again. Basic sociology, guys. The one-child policy created an entire generation of entitled individuals, and now it's biting China in the ass. At the end of the day, traditional solutions don't work in modern times, but human survival instincts never change. When faced with hardship, people adapt. We saw this during the pandemic. OnlyFans exploded because women needed money. Now, with divorce laws changing, women are rethinking marriage altogether because it no longer guarantees them a financial parachute. So what's the lesson here for men? Don't get married. Fellas, stay sharp, stay focused, and as always, man, that's where we working. Protect yourself at all times.
So we saw the crisis right now that's going on in China, and it's real. So the women in China, this is what they actually, for a time period, marriage is going to take a dive in China because they're going to have to reprogram the mental and mentality and mindset of the women, because there's no longer a financial incentive. You can't just get into marriage and get out of it in China. It's difficult. It's harder. But that creates an environment of real marriages and real family based on mutual respect and a great desire to be with that man, not just the economic benefits of being married. But we see the situation transition here in the West, where we're seeing now more women are talking about provider men. They're talking about their femininity being conditional. Let me rest in my femininity by paying all the bills, which is a scam. It's gotten to the point now. I'm thinking about it right now. You can't even call women feminists anymore. You can't call women feminists anymore in 2025. What? A feminist? Like, I put feminism on the back of a missing person carton right now. Like, literally. These covert feminists get vexed. You call a covert feminist a feminist. I don't support that feminism. Wait till she gets some security in a marriage or relationship. Her behavior, you see, this is the truth about women. The truth about women is in their behaviors and how they move. All this talk don't mean anything. This is the reality of what we have today. So just like China removed all of the financial incentives of marriage, so did Kenya. Kenya did some serious things with their divorce laws because they saw that their society is becoming like the West. But China goes harder. They changed their laws because it's a communist country. They also banned OnlyFans and got rid of all that debauchery because they saw what it was doing to women in the West. They saw the debauchery that's going on in the West and just globally. So they banned OnlyFans, changed their marriage laws, took the incentives out of it. Watch in the next 5 or 10 years. You'll be looking for feminists on the back of missing person card. This is what you see a feminist now in 2025. You can't find a feminist. I mean, I'm Gen X. And all the Gen X feminists, you say the word feminist around them, they distance themselves from feminism, because the economic benefits of feminism is disappearing. The DEI is going, all the incentive programs, all the government programs. Men are not being these sacrificial heroes anymore. They're not just running around trying to save women and all that stuff. You can't go to the gym. Dudes are not approaching women anymore. Dudes are not, all these benefits that came with feminism are gone when men start checking out. See, they didn't decide. There is no answer for men checking out, because it defeats everything. If men don't participate, restaurants go out of business. That transfer of wealth is gone. You can't transfer wealth from a man to, unless you Shannon Sharp him, unless you give the man to Shannon Sharp. Hey, who said that? Which content creator said that? I think it's CGA. Say lawsuit is the new alimony. Then got Shannon Sharp's ass paying out millions. Hey, you guys, make sure you hit the like button. There's only 11 likes. There's 26 people in the chat. So we see these changing dynamics, and it's the economy. So now everybody is talking about traditionalism, real men. There's some old simps too. They come in here trying, oh, you know what? You're a man, you pay for everything. For a feminist, what are one of the things about feminism? Feminism comes with sexual liberation. So you're going to pay all the bills, 100% of the bills, for a feminist, sexually liberated woman that have enjoyed sexual liberation. She's been a feminist her whole life, indoctrinated feminist. You're going to pay, you're going to be a provider. You're a fool. You're going to pay 100. Okay. Now, if you want to share assets or whatever, or you just happen to be wealthy, rich, very few people, if you look at the census reports and the statistics, very few people are in a situation where they can let a woman, well, first of all, what these women are looking to do is use your money, and then they still work and they keep all their money to themselves. You see? That's their idea of the new version of a relationship. You sucker, you go work, you pay 100% of the bills. I still work, maintain my independence. I take all of my money, save it, and keep it for me. Yeah. Who's going to go for that deal? He said, anybody born or raised in the West to feminist, male, female, right wing, left wing, we have been indoctrinated with this ideology since the 1970s. I totally agree. I hate this, I admit it, but this is the reality of life. But the problem is the conversation right now today is of the old ways, and it's not a genuine conversation. It's all bullshit. They don't plan to be under the leadership of any man. It's all gaslight. And even the church, the church is a 304 retirement home, 304 and disagreeable woman retirement home. And you only have to hit them with that one verse. The man is the head of the woman, and they cringe. They cringe. They don't want to hear that. And that's where we're at. Wait, what's up with these likes? Get these likes going. What's going on? Come on, folks. I'm gonna have to put it on subscriber only mode, but let's have this conversation, because this is the conversation that's not being had. Hit the like button, guys. And we won't have it. And no political party is dealing with the legal aspect of marriage and relationship, cohabitation, and whatever else, child custody. no political party has the balls or even desires to change the laws because one, they're afraid. One, first of all, women do 80% of the spending. So they're not going to, I think one of the brothers, I forgot his name. I mean, you know what? I think I know. I know who to talk. But that divorce law just really wrecked. I forgot the video. Oh, 1 second. But again, this is where we're at, Hold on 1 second. I got the video right here. But it's interesting how they flow and how they move. Let me share the screen. I'll tell you who made a good video on this topic, right? My brother over here at Men Need to Be Heard. He did an interesting yeah, I did in there. And it really outlines that neither political party are dealing with the issue, the elephant in the room, which is the marriage and divorce laws. And it's ridiculous because you think about the topic of relationships and all these panels and all these conversations and all this talking, but nobody's addressing the elephant in the room. So salute to my brother over here at Men Need to Be Heard. I'm going to go ahead and play this video. I want you guys to, to chime in the comment section.
Digging into how men shaped the results of the 2024 election. From the White House to Congress, from state seats to local city councils and school boards, men determined the results of that election. If you missed it, I'll put a link down in the description below. And back then, I told you how after the dust settled, both political parties were sitting around and asking themselves, what the hell just happened? What made men vote the way they did? What got them so riled up? What caused them to reject the same old tired talking points in record numbers? Well, today we're going to fast forward 6 months and see how both parties have finally started answering those questions, or so they claim. And let me tell you something right now. They aren't just getting it wrong. They're proving once again that they don't get men, nor honestly, do I think they actually care to. They don't care to understand men in general. They don't care about men's issues. They just don't care, period. Well, let me rephrase that. They do care about 3 things: our votes, our labor, and our tax dollars, but only in the way that it benefits them. In this video, I'm going to discuss how the parties have chosen to respond to the men's vote in 2024 and why now more than ever, it's crucial for us as men to start holding them accountable.
And he's absolutely correct. Again, you got to change the laws in your own life. And the quickest solution to the problem is not to participate. You don't have to get married. Who told you you had to get married and take part in their system? That doesn't mean you shouldn't be the best version of yourself for you. But why would you take part in a system that's absolutely stacked against you. Now, some guys, if they have that 5% woman, and they do what they do, it is what it is. You have a 5% woman. But not participating in a system that doesn't benefit you or that's heavily stacked against you doesn't make you less of a man. It just makes you smart. Women don't do anything that's against their best interest. Oprah has not been married for how many years? Nobody tells Oprah to go get married to somebody. I mean, they get a guy like Jeff Bezos will fall on the sword, but Oprah won't. At the end of the day, women take care of themselves. Let's move on.
Both political parties are screwing men over. How they've both been doing it for decades, and how, based on their recent comments and policies, they're both planning to continue to do so for many decades more. And let's get started with the Democrats, because honestly, they deserve to go first for their level of incompetency, which in the past few months has reached heights even Phineas Fogg can only dream of. After getting absolutely whitewashed by male voters in 2024 across all races, ages, and regions, a few of them, I have to be fair, actually admitted there might be a problem. And you know what? As I said, credit where credit is due, because it is rare for them to even acknowledge it or even show the slightest bit of attention towards men, as they, as a party, have a policy that is laser focused on women and women's rights. But the beatdown was so bad, they really didn't have a choice but to cast an eye towards men and try to figure out what was going on. So how did they do that? What did they do next? Did they actually sit down with real men and listen to our concerns and maybe craft some policy solutions to address them? Did they back away from the toxic rhetoric painting men, especially white men, as the root of every problem in society? Did they rethink the way they've made masculinity synonymous with violence, bigotry, and oppression? Nope, not a chance. Instead, they did what Democrats always do: throw a massive pile of money at a problem they created. $20 million, in fact, to, wait for it, study men. And because it's 2025, they gave it a cute little acronym, SAM, otherwise known as Speaking with American Men. Sounds nice, right? Well, they might as well have set that pile of money on fire, because what men actually told them and what the Democratic leadership chose to hear were two entirely different things. The study reported that men, particularly younger men, felt stressed, ashamed, and confused about what it means to be a man in 2025. Well, no shit. After blaming men for everything, telling them there's something wrong with them simply because they happen to be men, and trying to force them into being something they're not, they're suddenly coming to the conclusion that that might make men feel stressed, ashamed, or confused. I mean, it took you $20 million to figure that out? I swear, all you can do is sit back and shake your head. Shake your head at how this proves beyond any doubt they not only haven't been listening to men for decades and haven't shown even the slightest bit of caring or concern about men or their issues, and they've actually reached the point where they're proving they're completely tone deaf, because that's where we're at. It boggles the mind that they had to spend that much money to figure out that maybe, just maybe, the message they've put out for the better part of 6 decades now, the, let's call it, you men suck message, the one that they have never wavered in for 60 years, might be part of the problem.
Hey, guys, I'm going to let him cook, man. I'm going to let him cook. Hit the like button. You want to support the channel, please do. Send a super chat. You can send a cash app. We're going to keep this type of content going. Hit the like button, but we're going to let him cook.
You'd think that maybe they would take a step back and say to themselves, maybe it has something to do with men and boys being blamed by us for every problem in the world. By us telling them literally from the day they're born until the day they die that their masculinity is inherently toxic. And then turning around and scolding those men as their place in society gets eroded more and more every single day. Nowhere is safe. Literally every institution that the Democrats control, from the media to academia and everything in between, turns out this message day after day, week after week, year after year, and has done so for decades. And no institution is more guilty of it than politicians and the government. So for them to spend $20 million in order to come to the conclusion that men felt outcast, ostracized, and were tired of being labeled villains simply because they happened to be born with a penis defies belief. I mean, seriously, how deep is your dismissal of men that you couldn't figure that out on your own? That you somehow needed a study to suddenly hear what men had to say or think, even though men have been telling you that for decades. But even after they reached their conclusions, they continued to keep their blinders on and their earplugs in. Did they listen to what men said? Did they say, all right, guys, maybe we have gone too far? Did they tone down the lectures or the scapegoating? Nope. In fact, they went in a completely different direction. One that is even more mind-boggling than the waste of $20 million. Instead of saying, okay, here's a problem, let's come up with some solutions and maybe help men out, they decided that the problem was their messaging. And that's how they're trying to address it, by focusing on messaging and not doing a damn thing to address men or their issues. They aren't interested in the least in fixing the real problems that men face. No, they've decided they need to focus on finding better ways to manipulate male voters into agreeing with them. They suggested using platforms like Discord, Twitch, and Substack to spread their message in male-dominated spaces. They even decided to attack some of those spaces, claiming they're raging with toxic masculinity and hatred of women. You know, calling them red-pilled or the manosphere and all the other things they're claiming. It shows that instead of listening to what men are saying, they're seeking to silence them and take control of the narrative in a way that suits them, in a way that they somehow think is going to get them more votes. In the end, it isn't about empathy. It isn't about policy. It isn't about helping men at all. It's about control. That study and the Democratic response to it has rightfully been labeled a joke. Hell, even some Democrats called the study patronizing, condescending, and tone deaf because it treated men like some strange alien species that needed to be decoded instead of real human beings. And then, and this is truly the cherry on top of the shit sundae they're serving, the Democrats rolled out their new spokesperson to win over men. And who was it? Was it someone who could communicate to men on their terms? Was it someone who could show men leadership and understanding in a way that resonated with them? Was it even a man in the first place? Sadly, I have to say laughably, nope, not even close. No, the Dems, in their glorious way of thinking, decided to send out one Olivia Giuliana to make the rounds on podcasts and other social media. Olivia Giuliana, who openly admits to being a far-left, anti-male, self-proclaimed, plus-sized queer feminist. One who has spent years trashing men online. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. Their plan to connect with men was to send out someone who actively dislikes, dare I say, hates men, and who has spent the past few years doing what Dems have done for decades, castigating and blaming the men for being men.
I mean, you can't, you just can't make this shit up. I mean, they have no, I don't think, is it that they just cannot, they're so far gone that they don't connect with the masculine anymore, or they just don't give a shit because women, or they just making economic decisions like the Republicans do where they decide, you know what, we're not going to tamper with the marriage laws. Women spend 80% of the money in America. They're afraid to create problems or disturb the balance of the transfer of wealth to keep women spending. So we're not going to touch these marriage laws because it just doesn't make good business sense. It's not even a political thing. It's now becomes a business decision. But then you have to deal with the fact that there's a bunch of men that's not participating in the system. How do we get these dudes back on the plantation? We got to manipulate them in a way, that make it seem like it was their idea. We're going to try and manipulate these men. Red Falls Black, he said, don't forget the corporations and the elites, that 80% of consumer spending by women is also why women are 80% of the consumer debt. Very true. And they are panicking that we won't marry them and bail them out. I got to get the explosion for you, man. That is a valid point. Very valid point. I got to give you an explosion. I got you and Top Gun an explosion, of course. That is a valid point. I got to give you an explosion for that. So salute to you for that comment. That is a valid point. Because that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. But the strategy now, like they talk about positive masculinity, which still creates a disposable atmosphere for men. And it doesn't care about what men want. They don't care what men want because of the money. But that doesn't, these guys, because of content like mine and other men in these spaces, it's an uphill battle because now you're going against men who are teaching men not to be disposable tampons. And that disrupts the whole system. So let's let them finish this conversation. But they don't even care or respect men or value men enough, other than being disposable tampons, to actually care what men want or to provide any level of fair exchange to men, giving them any kind of value. It's just about shame, blame, and disrespect. So let's continue on.
Look, I don't care what someone's orientation is. I really don't. Live and let live. But if after spending $20 million, your best option, the person you've chosen to be your messenger to appeal to a frustrated, alienated male electorate, is someone who's been on record demeaning and mocking men, well, you've officially lost the plot. I mean, seriously, even a gay man would have made more sense. Hell, I'd argue would make a lot more sense considering their position on the issues. But apparently competence and strategy are too much to ask from the Democratic Party. It was, hands down, one of the biggest wastes of $20 million in modern political history. I'd argue the biggest waste of money the Democratic Party has ever done. And that's saying something. Think about it. What else could they have done with that money that might have shown men they were actually listening to them, might have shown that they actually cared? Well, here's a thought. They could have funded, say, 20 dedicated domestic violence shelters for men in cities across the nation. They could have given $1 million to each and every one of them to open their doors and provide services to the millions of men who are victims of domestic violence every year and who have nowhere to turn, nowhere to get help. They could have, with that one move, increased the total number of male DV shelters in America from 2, yes, you heard that right, 2 to 22. Nowhere near enough to be sure. Nowhere near enough to address the inequality that exists, considering there's over 2,000 shelters for women when the rates of victimhood are roughly equal. But no, you see, that wouldn't fit the narrative. In fact, it would actually run counter to the narrative that they've pushed for 50 years now, that women and only women can be victims of domestic violence. And as we all know, the modern Democratic Party won't touch an issue unless it benefits their preferred voting blocs. It's complete insanity and shows how they still don't get it, and honestly, I doubt ever will. And as men, we need to seriously ask ourselves, after seeing this response, why should we ever support the Democratic Party? Why would we want to support a party that is not only completely tone deaf to our issues, but can't even get their heads out of their asses enough to even consider hearing them, let alone addressing them? As I said earlier, it is truly mind-boggling how they've basically doubled down on their vilification of men and are making it abundantly clear they're not going to do anything to address men's issues. If they think the numbers were bad in 2024, wait till 26 or 28, because after this, it ain't going to get better. It's going to get far worse. Now, before anyone starts thinking that this is a one-sided roast, we're going to talk about the Republicans and how They are responding to the tidal wave of men's votes. And I'm sorry to say, it's not much better than the Dems. In fact, might even be worse. All right. As I've covered before, and as many political pundits far more knowledgeable than me have said, it was men who delivered not just the White House to the Republican Party, but Congress all the way down to local elections. And what has the Republican Party's response been? What have the Republicans said to men since? Well, it certainly wasn't thank you or we appreciate you. No, in fact, it's been nothing short of F you. Because you see, while Democrats ignore men, Republicans are continuing to do what they've done for decades: exploit them. Despite the fact that Trump won 54 to 56% of the male vote in 2024, including, I might add, record numbers of men of color, what has the Republican Party done in return? The same thing they always do. Take those men's votes, then run right back to business as usual. Empty platitudes about personal responsibility, lectures about manliness and family values. Not a single tangible policy addressing men's real issues at the federal level. And with a few exceptions here and there, not really much at the state. No creation of an office for men. No addressing the men's mental health crisis. No addressing the bias in family courts. Nothing other than half-baked platitudes. And lest we forget, it was the Republicans who in the 1990s turbocharged the anti-male family court system. They were the ones who pushed the deadbeat dad narrative. They were the ones who, going back further, led the charge to make no-fault divorce the norm. I remind you, it was California, which was then a red state, that led the way in passing no-fault divorce. And it was Ronald Reagan, yes, that Ronald Reagan, who signed it into law. And then, as I said, in the 90s, under the guise of cracking down on deadbeat dads, they pushed through draconian child support laws that have ruined the lives of countless fathers, countless families, while completely ignoring the fact that 80 to 90% of divorces are filed by women, usually because of financial advantage. And these are supposed to be our allies? Even more appalling is that the data was clear even then. It wasn't that men were the ones walking out on families. Women were. And the Republican Party knew it. They simply didn't care. Fast forward to today, and it's same song, new verse. Oh, sure, here and there they've made some changes. But for every positive, there's a negative, or two, or three. For every time taken back initiative designed to address the issue of fathers being denied access to their children, there's the let's charge them with child support from the date of conception and make sure they pay up, even though they might not actually be the father. What? You want protections? You want us to actually prove you're the dad before we hit you with child support? Are you kidding? No, deadbeat. That woman named you as dad and she'd never lie, so pay up, buddy. We'll sort it out later. As if any man is ever going to see a cent in reimbursement. You'd have thought after the 2024 election, when men abandoned the Democrats en masse, the GOP would seize the opportunity to address men's issues, to prove to men they were listening to them, prove to them that they are going to take some meaningful action. But no, instead, they doubled down on the same old, worn out, tired guilt trips they've been pushing for 40 years now. More of the same old, same old. Men, you need to step up. You need to take responsibility. You need to stop putting yourself first and go be a provider for everyone else. Recently, Tomi Lahren has been running around on the talk shows, slamming men, and in particular Gen Z men, as lazy for not approaching women, not dating them or marrying them. She's been lambasting them for quietly quitting relationships. Then there's Laura Ingraham, another conservative talking head who chimed in calling unmarried men failures for not doing the right thing. And what is that right thing? Well, it's being sacrificial pawns for women. The Republican Party is doing what they've always done, spewing those same old tired talking points that they have for years, demanding men step up, man up, marry up. and offering them absolutely nothing in return. No mental health programs, no male DV shelters, no job training for displaced working class men, no reforms to the family court system. Even Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, which is packed with pork barrel projects that would make a swine farmer salivate, doesn't allocate a single dime specifically towards men and men's issues like, say, male suicide prevention or homelessness. But rest assured, there's plenty of money to be had for women. Here's the ugly truth. For eons now, men have been viewed as disposable, literal cannon fodder for the benefit of women. And despite all their claims of progress, despite all the talk of equality, nothing has changed, especially with regard to the political system. Both parties view men as disposable, something to be used and discarded, something to be tolerated, but just barely, and only when it benefits them. Democrats see men as the problem. Republicans see men as tools, useful idiots to be exploited. The language may be different, but the message is exactly the same. While Democrats call masculinity toxic, Republicans call men lazy and unmanly for not sacrificing themselves on the altar of marriage and tradition. Neither party values men for who we are, only for what we can do for them or for society. Neither party values men for even creating the society we live in. So here's my question. Why do we keep playing this game? Why do we keep voting for people who despise us? Why not do to politics what we have done to dating? Take our ball, go home, and leave them begging for attention. Because until and unless we do, nothing's going to change. The Dems will keep making us the scapegoat, and the Republicans will keep making us their sacrificial lambs. And the fact is, men, we have no one to blame but ourselves. We men have allowed this to happen, and we continue to allow it to happen. While women's groups flood lawmakers with calls, emails, and protests, men barely show up. While women donate hundreds of millions of dollars to raise awareness on their issues, men can't even put up $1 a week. Hell, $1 a year. That's on us. But in 2026 and 28, we have a chance to send a very clear message. I can't actually believe I'm saying this, as I've always been one to strongly advocate that you need to vote. Always said you must go and vote. But at this point, the best option, the only option we have, is to vote none of the above. Write in no confidence. Force them to notice when record numbers of men either skip the polls or refuse to endorse either of these broken parties. Because we did speak in the voting booth last year, and now they're proving they didn't hear a word we said. So what do you think? What should men demand from politics and politicians, from each other, from our leaders? Does either party hear us, and do they even care if they do? What would it take to get real issues for men addressed instead of being treated like yesterday's garbage? Drop a comment below and let's hash it out. And if this hit a home run, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. We're not done talking about this. In fact, this is just the beginning. I'm Dan. This is Men Need to Be Heard. And together, we're going to keep speaking the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it makes them.
So salute to Brother Dan from Men Need to Be Heard. But he nailed it on the point. He brings home the point. At the end of the day, your future is in your hands. Whatever outcomes you get in life, you know the information, and now that we have the NYC mayor election coming up, I have no decision who I will vote for. Because again, the society is comfortable with men just being disposable tampons, and they don't want to change that. So this is why your only choice is self-preservation. And that's why I always make the comment about nobody takes care of you like you. All this conversation about box and women and all that stuff, my conversation is about self-preservation, because I already know how the system is rigged against men. It's completely rigged against men. And now what we're seeing now, this outcry or this shaming, I call it the shaming epidemic, is to get men to surrender their power, to surrender their resources, without them having to give anything to men. They resort in shame, your masculinity. Oh, you guys are bums, degenerates, losers, and everything else. It's all about extracting resources from you without giving anything to you, using psychological warfare about shame. He said, please understand that the males voted for MAGA, not the failed Nikons of 20th century. The MAGA delineates from the GOP, or we take the vote from them and start another party. It's time. I totally agree. What happens is men have to all register as independent voters. The first thing that men need to do is, in my opinion, is divorce themselves from either political party and go down to the DMV and register as independent voters. Get off all these plantations. You're an independent voter now. Don't let anybody automatically count your vote as a man. Like, I'm just going to make them uncertain about who you're going to support, who you're going to vote for as a man. Because it's not going to change. And until they change these marriage laws, no rational, logical man should be get married in the current system that we have now. And again, this is why we see all these videos about these women with their feminism. You know, now because of economic reasons and guys sitting on the sideline. So now we have the tradcons that are shaming them. And we have some of these guys. You notice the guys that are married now, these types of guys in the Black community especially, this is the only men that are talking to us, men that have already got their balls clipped, not the masculine married, because there's some masculine married brothers. I'm not talking about the masculine married brothers. The men that are talking crap to us, shaming us, going after men who travel, going after whatever, is usually these dudes right here. This is the only dudes that come from men. At this point in the Black community, that is. These are the only dudes coming from men. You know. But the quickest way to flush out these feminists lies right here. Where we at? That's how you flush a feminist out. That Ephesians 5:23. They don't like that at all. Especially the Christian religious ones. So, as we saw with China, with the marriage laws in China, the women don't want to get married. All of a sudden, women's desire to get married is going down. And the only women that are getting married in China is women that genuinely want to be married, have kids, have family, genuinely in love with that man, in love with family, in love with traditions. The only women that are getting married are traditional women in China going forward, because there's no financial gain anymore. And the same thing needs to happen in America and in the West. By changing the laws and taking the money out of marriage, you'll see a different mindset mentality towards marriage and relationships. And you don't want to have these types of women, which they're doing right now is trying to attack, use masculinity against them, men, by using shame. Shame. Like we saw with Tommy Lauren, you see the covert feminists. There's an epidemic of covert feminism now. And the quickest way to flush them out is to really use a lot of the scriptures, a lot of the teachings. First of all, if a woman is truly, serving God or whatever, she won't be lecturing men. She won't be talking to men, trying to teach men or lecturing them. I'll stand by real quick. But this is what you see right now. So we're dealing with an issue of covert feminism, women pretending to be traditional women going after men that they would never date if they were 23 years old, Men, they're going after men that, he looks good enough and makes enough money to get by the sisterhood. But they wouldn't touch him if he was 25, 22 years old, 20. If they were 22, 23, they wouldn't even touch him. They wouldn't even want to be with him. So right now we got a money grab. That's why they're always talking about the situation. Because reality is when all these government programs were in place, they'd have sex with Mook Mook and Day Day because they had the insurance policy of the state. Now they're going after Section 8 housing, people on these programs for years. They're taking away all those things. And then the men are not marrying. So now you have a double whammy. These dudes are getting hip to game and saying, oh, whoa. I'm not bringing the state into the relationship, and you can't shame them. Like shame doesn't work on Gen Z. They've seen their fathers and grandfathers get cooked. You can't shame them. Exactly. You can't shame anyone into loving you. Exactly the point. But now, like you said, they're hiding their cards and whatever, pretending not to be feminists. We know you're feminists. We know you're feminists. We know what you are. We know what you'll do. We've seen the history of what you will do, especially in relationships, when you have power. And like I said, that right there gets rid of all that they don't like that verse at all. They can't stand that. They can't stand that. And until there are changes in the laws, until there's absolute changes in the laws, and getting married in the West, you're taking a serious gamble. Especially what we have now. My philosophy, guys. Come on, you know how I think. That's my solution always. That solves all the problems right there in the short term. So because they're not going to change. They're not going to change the laws. They're not. That's my solution right there. Let these wild horses run free. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Nothing we say will change, but this situation is to educate men. Entertain ourselves too, because we're not changing anything in terms of, unless there's a serious push politically, socially. And we're seeing it now because the dudes are not signing these contracts. Any dude with any sense is not signing any contract. And that's why when I played the video yesterday, the woman is disrespecting her husband on TikTok, talking about their marital problems and their marital business, because there's no consequence for her, because she has the leverage from the state and the society that empowers her to disrespect her husband in the comforts of his provisions. And that guy is checked out. He's just trying to stay in that marriage so that he can have his kids. Most guys are like, yo, I can't be coming to and some other guys in the house with my kids. So a lot of dudes stay in these marriages if they have children because they're afraid, especially if they have daughters and sons now. They don't want nobody doing stuff to their kids or messing around with their kids. So they'll stay in a bad marriage to protect their kids. What a disrespectful, disagreeable woman who is reinforced by the state. They will stick around for a while because they're afraid of what's going to happen to their children. And they know how the system works. So they stay to protect their children. And they also protect their resources. So they're like, you know what? Whatever. They'll play along. And that's a torturous situation for anybody to go through. And again, that's why you see so many gray divorces. And first of all, there's a lot of women that get tempted by social media, but also too, when those kids reach a certain age where they can fend for themselves, that guy may start pushing back. But unfortunately, a pattern has already been created, a pattern of disrespect. And once you have a pattern of disrespect that has been allowed to feaster for a number of years by a woman, you can't, it's hard to correct that. It's hard to correct a woman that has gotten adapted to a pattern of disrespect. You know, you're better off starting a new relationship. And that's what happens many times. The divorce blow is hard, or the guy just checks out the marriage. He's been there for 20 something years. The divorce, I mean, the woman is delusional and she goes follow looking for another situation on social media. You know, that's why when you look at these dating apps, you see a bunch of single moms and divorcees and divorced women on these dating apps. You're just digging in the trash can. You're digging in the trash can. I call it trash can dating. When you go on an app and you see all these women that have disrespected their way out of a relationship and been hideous towards men, now they on the dating app talking about, I want to find my future, you know, what's the words they be using on dating apps? Trying to romance, like talk about romance like they're 22 years old. They're ready to sabotage one marriage, home wrecked a situation. Now they label the guy that they screwed over as abusive. And this, because all of them are victims. They're all victims. And, you know, that's why when women start talking about men, I just be like this. I wonder what's his side of the story. I don't say it to them, but in my mind, I'd be like, because I, you know, my philosophy is this: keep them talking. It's like the T app. Keep them talking so we know who to avoid. That's how you do it. You keep them talking so we know who to avoid. And you want them to talk. You want them to snitch on themselves. You know that saying, listen, don't judge? Because you want to find out what she's about. You don't correct. Oh, for real? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. That's interesting. Tell us some more. What do you think? Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Listen, don't judge. Let them keep talking. And when they talk, they'll tell you, like the T app is a whole facts report, right? We know the T app is a whole facts report. But you will find out all the debauchery they're into it and what this shit they did to men before you. Because women don't change their taste in men, really. They change their taste in lifestyles. They're upgrading their lifestyle. Yeah, that's usually the so you let them talk. Like they'll give you a Carfax report of how they've disrespected men in the past. Because they're all disrespectful. Many of them, most of them are disrespectful, especially the good-looking ones you see walking around here that still got a nice body on them. They've disrespected themselves out of relationship. But anyhow, I'm going to get out of the screen. It's been enjoyable to have you guys for the time period. So peace and blessings to you guys. And you guys have a good day, man. Hopefully it was entertaining today. Hit the like button. If you want to share the stream, please do. If you want to support the channel, please do. But I'm out of here, guys.